Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Podcast Demastered. I'm here as always with Chelsea, and this week we're going to be continuing our not forgotten story of X-Men. We have been slowly going through the current Krakoan era of X-Men comics, which has been running, it's been publishing since like 2019, and it is going on now, although as you're listening, the story is wrapping up. The era of Krakoa is almost at an end. The explosive finales to everything will be happening in the next month or two. So it's pretty crazy that we've gone like 4 or 5 years with this amazing Krakoan story that's being told. But eventually we'll cover the end of it. But right now, we're kind of going through like the second half of the second saga, which is Reign of X. And I think our last episode ended with, was it the Hellfire Gala?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The very first Hellfire Gala, where mutants have basically taken over Mars. They've terraformed it, and they have redubbed it Arakko, Planet Arakko. And then like their cousin mutants from a different a whole different dimension, they've kind of like dumped them onto Mars. So, like, a whole new thing is
for the best. It was kind of smart there.
Yeah. For sure. Well, it's that or leave them on Earth where they would just, taking over Earth because they're a very war-ish people. Mm-hmm. So the Omega mutants got together and they said, okay, well, we'll just take Mars. It's fine. We'll put them over there. We'll solve a whole lot of problems all at the same time. And that's kind of where it leaves. Oh, well, we'll get to other things later. Yeah. It's fine. Mm-hmm. So Chelsea has gone through, she's read the second half of the Reign of X, and we're going to be going through all of the books, talking about some of the stuff that happens, leading all the way into the end of Reign of X, marked by two different events. Mm-hmm. But we'll get there later.
Yes. And Wade, with you also just kind of like talking about how like the Krakoan age itself is actually ending and like current time frame and stuff, and like things are all like leading towards chaos basically. Like I feel like it's honestly it's kind of what this is, like this second half of Reign of X. It's it's
barreling toward the unknown for sure.
Yeah, and it's like there's so many cliffhangers, there's so many things where there are so many freaking people pulling strings behind the scenes everywhere. It's just, I made notes as I was reading through all these stories, and I'm just like, oh man, this is a mess. This is leading to nowhere good. Like, this is crazy. Like, and we see a lot of changes happening, like change-ups in teams, change-up in stories ending with some new rebranding that we'll see later on when we continue through this Krakoan age. But yeah, I think we can just kind of start going through the different stories and highlighting some of the things that have happened.
Yeah. Is there, there is so many books that are going on. Mm-hmm. Some of them are ongoing. Some of them are just very short little things. But we have so many books. We have Cable. We have Hellions, X-Force, New Mutants, Marauders, Sword, The Way of X, Excalibur, New X-Men. There is so many. Oh, and the return of like the actual X-Men series.
Yes.
Lovely. Mm-hmm. There are so many things going on. It was quite a time to be pulling X-Men comics at the time.
Yeah, it was.
So, and they all kind of funnel. They start so big and broad, and they all kind of funnel into the end of the saga that is Inferno. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to talk about there, but there's lots and lots to talk about before we hit Inferno. So, Chelsea, where would you like to start in this big old wide world of X comics?
I think we can kind of start small. I think on our list, we can kind of just start with Cable, because we see some of these comics end, like these series end, and these characters will play a part in other stories and stuff. And like with Cable, which a lot of Cable happened before the Hellfire Gala, but like I think it's just like the one issue at the end in particular happens after. And the whole thing we've seen with the whole Cable series is basically just like we've seen the younger Cable. He's been having his time, enjoying time with his family, his multiple girlfriends and stuff. And kind of trying to grow up at the same time, but also just like not, but it kind of like comes into this.
Like he wants to be a kid, but he also has a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
He's a fun little dude.
Also, poor
I
guy.
liked Kid Cable a lot.
Yeah.
Also, poor guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a character where I was a little bit like, OMG, I'm like kind of annoyed with him, but then I really learned to like his character, and then it was kind of like, oh, by the time I like really, really warmed up to him, it was time to say goodbye. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
Because he gets replaced again with old Cable at the end, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of saying, kid, you have to go back, you have to fight your battles for yourself, and like you have to go back to your timeline of the future in order to do that. So he deals with that, and then we get Old Man Cable back once again, and he gets to work with Sword, and that's kind of where we see that going.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And then we also have another really good series end with Hellions.
Yes.
And Hellions is essentially like the Mr. Sinister comic.
Yes.
He's got his own little team that he has been so graciously gifted.
Yes.
And
perfect
so
words there.
he sends them on little missions that are
for his interest.
Only beneficial to him.
Yeah.
Only benefit. But this is one of my favorite comics in the entire Krakoan age. Because like this Mr. Sinister is just he's awful because it's Mr. Sinister, right?
Gosh.
Oh god. But like also he's freaking hilarious. He's a drama queen. I love how he just like the sass and the banter and the capes.
Oh gosh, no. I actually just pretend he doesn't exist half the time in there, even though he's a big overarching part of that.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
it's his team, which also I'm just going to say right off the bat with this is that some of these books, I always felt like the teams that were put together were kind of weird, but they all somehow work out really well. And
yeah, they always end up okay at the end.
Yeah, and like they're always, I'm like, that was so smart, like teaming up these people together. But like with Hellions, like it's a team of like terrible mutants that have done wrong.
Terrible,
like
yeah.
And
either like they're terrible people, or they have powers that always lead to situations where they get like abused, and there's always so much trauma.
Yeah.
Poor Psylocke.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Psylocke.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
she never
honestly,
catches a break.
No, but like, I mean, poor everybody, because you even have with Havoc and like just everybody, but like they're all like in a sense so messed up, but they become a good team in the end. Like they actually like like each other, and they support each other, and we see them helping to like grow and like move past their trauma to be able to try to like be a part of society and just to find happiness. Which I know, poor Psylocke, which a lot of the stuff that happens in that, but then like she also has this like promising future a little bit. You get that little glimpse of that. But before that, we have to talk about the trauma that she gets put through again and again with that, because Psylocke, she's a telepath. Like she knows what's going on. She's also the one who like runs the team for Mr. Sinister, but Mr. Sinister is blackmailing her because the whole thing that was previously happened was with like in Fallen Angel miniseries, I think we talked about in our very first Krakoan episode, which kind of goes in the reveal that she had a daughter and stuff, but like Mr. Sinister had like a copy of her memory or something like digitized and is like holding, quote, the daughter captive, and so he's like, you have to do everything I tell you, otherwise I'll destroy the only existence of your daughter. And so she ends up like erasing her team's minds or like manipulating them slightly because
she has to.
Yeah,
right.
And she wants that. But like, I mean, this part of the end of Hellions, we see a lot of like all things are revealed. Like the whole team finds out about Psylocke's daughter. They find out what Mr. Sinister did, because we have the clone of Mr. Sinister comes back, the one that took them into Otherworld. He survived.
Yes, he did.
And I mean, he's a little kooky, but I mean, isn't Mr. Sinister always? But because he had been working with the one mutant there, Tarn, who was the other
Tarn the Uncaring.
Yes,
is that his name?
Yes, it is.
Oh, he's a monster.
Like you think Mr.
We haven't
Sinister
even
is a
got
monster,
to the awful
but
stuff about him.
Ooh, yeah.
There's much to come on Tarn, and it's awful.
But like, I mean, because Tarn and Mr. Sinister are kind of like,
they're very similar.
Yes.
In like what they do and what they want. They're like mutant geneticists in a way.
Yeah.
And they do terrible, awful things to like manipulate mutant genes and stuff like that. For different reasons. neither of them good.
No.
But for different reasons. So they're kind of like the opposites of the, different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But like Tarn is so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
And is so much more powerful than Mr. Sinister too.
Oh
like,
boy. He's very powerful.
Mountains, yes.
Yeah. And definitely a struggle for people trying to fight with him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we see some of that. We also see, talking about like ridiculousness with Mr. Sinister, some of the slightly lighter hearted parts that are really funny is that in this part we get to see the part where they're in front of the Quiet Council and like Psylocke is there, like the whole team, I think we'll lead up to that part, and Psylocke punches him or whatever, like beats him up, and then everybody's kind of like, except for Storm and Exodus, are like, do it again.
Yeah, they're like, do it again.
Yeah, do it again. And then like Sinister's complaining and stuff, and they're like, if you don't shut up, we're gonna give you a muzzle. He didn't shut up. They literally put a muzzle on him.
They sure did.
I could not believe that. I was like, what the heck? So I was like, wow, that's ridiculous and hilarious. But the whole other part that we have to deal with too is that, so because there's this team, this ragtag team of very difficult people with horrible pasts and stuff, and some people trying to grow from that and not make the same mistakes. However, we see some mutants that can't get completely through that trauma, and that plays a big part is with Nanny and Orphan Maker. Yeah. It was inevitable. It was a little bit sad at the end with them because, like, whew.
You really grow to love them.
Yeah.
In
their own way, yeah.
In their own way, because, Nanny is just, her thing is to protect the children, and she goes to...
Extremes,
and people, if you don't know who Nanny is, she's like this metal egg.
Yeah.
Like, that's, yeah.
She, like, wears a metal egg costume, technically.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
But she looks after the children's, and then there's Orphan Maker, who she's, like, the only person who can control. And Orphan Maker, his name is Peter, and he's like an adult male, but he's not. He has, like, the mind of, like a 10-year-old, pretty young.
Yeah.
But he has to wear this specific suit because he is such a powerful mutant that, like, him being outside of the suit could basically, it's kind of hinted at, like,
his power is like too intense or something.
It's
like something
too
like
intense,
catastrophic
like,
or something.
Yeah, like apocalypse, end of the world level.
Yeah.
If his power is to, like, leave the suit. So she takes care of him, and he loves his nanny, and
yeah, that it's a little concerning.
But he's a child, and he throws temper tantrums, and sometimes those temper tantrums end with the death of humans.
Yes.
So
So yeah, which was awful because the whole thing was this whole thing with this jealousy, and like there was like a nanny stole this like baby AI thing, and like Orphan Maker was feeling left out of the situation and tried to like go save it whole thing, and then it turned into then he loses control and just can't control himself, and he kills park rangers, national park rangers. And because we've talked about in these episodes the first rule, or hold on, not the first rule. The first rule is we'll get that one. Never mind. One of the rules is kill no man, and he did that. So that means he's going to the pit. So that's why we see the punching and stuff actually of Psylocke, because she's mad about the whole situation, being like, you put it into it. So even though there's some lighthearted matter in that, the whole council decides that nope, Orphan Maker needs to go into the pit. And you see that like reunion though between Orphan Maker and Nanny coming to like, be like, I'm not going to leave you. Like, I'm going into the pit with you because like we belong together and you don't need to do this alone. So we see that. But the other interesting side of things is that with this whole ending, you see that Emma was pulling some strings behind the scenes with this, which honestly, yes, it made sense, but some of her choices were still upsetting with that because Emma clearly hates Mr. Sinister. I agree, but I'm also just like, I still don't fully understand why they allowed him on the Quiet Council to begin with. I don't know why they didn't just take all of his DNA and just like not allow him to be a part of this. Like, honestly, it was really dumb in my opinion. They were letting a predator
they knew they were letting like absolutely,
and I'm like,
and they thought it was just one of those things where you picked your poison. You have to have a thing to have the whole thing, and because like it said that like, well, he's the only one who knows, like, it's not that he has like the DNA, like the data on the DNA, it's that he's the only one who knows how to do the thing. But also at the same time, it's like you have how many like Omega or near Omega level telepaths. If you wanted the information in Mr. Sinister's head, you could probably find a way to figure it out. Although he has lots of like
he has
protections against that, like that'll like kill people if they try. But that's a whole other like conversation.
But realistic,
yes, absolutely, yeah. Because
the other thing was that Mr. Sinister was building a factory of his clones, and that was also what he was keeping hidden, and Emma found out about that as well, as like, destroy that sucker. And so, she actually worked with Empath and told Empath to have Havoc lose control at the facility to completely blow it up. So I'm just like, really, Emma, we're like making one person do something to make another person do something, but not only like whatever with the facility, but the problem was that facility was also housing Psylocke's child's like essence. That was the only remaining in that. So you see that devastation of like destroying her, having her child destroyed, as well as lots of other terrible stuff that need to be destroyed. And which is just, it's ridiculous, because it's also thinking about like, because Havoc is just being traumatized this whole time, because like he's been questioning why he's on the team, but he's also clearly has this very violent traumatized past of like losing control and having these outbursts. But his more recent controls have all been because of Empath like influencing him with that. And then
Empath is just a
but then he really did miss his family all along, and that's what's sad about that. He did those terrible things, but then he realized he actually was happy with them instead of in his fake paradise of people that...
Well, the grass is always greener, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he wasn't such a jerk all the time.
Yeah, but then he made his place there. And then, which I guess because Emma felt bad because of what happened with Havoc, she encourages the thing that Havoc has always wanted since being on Krakoa, to bring back Madeline Pryor. And lo and behold, who is waiting for him after all this is done? Because the team is all disbanded, everybody is done. He gets his girl. Dun, dun, dun.
The Goblin Queen herself.
Oh boy. That's just trouble.
Drama. Oh yeah.
But then we get a little happiness with because we've seen a little bit of like slight like, will they, won't they? Do they have a chance with each other? We've seen it with Psylocke and Greycrow. Their little romance potential.
Oh right, I forgot about that.
And I'm like, yes. You both need something. You need to move on and have a little bit of happiness in your life after everything. So.
But Hellions ends, but the story of Hellions will live on. It does continue, as many of these things do. A lot of these stories, they like the books end, but they find new life in a different book in the next era. Yeah, which is I do love that. They don't ever like forget about things happening.
No, which is really good to see.
Sometimes you got to wrap stuff up.
Yeah, or sometimes the stories will take longer to come back around, but we've seen lots of
that's a thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is cool to have all these different stories, even though, some of these at this point, like, will end or whatever and continue on. But, like, we've also seen so many mutants getting the spotlight that normally don't get it.
And I know, I love that. I love that so much. Like, there are some mutants who haven't been, like, heard from in so long, mostly because, like, they've been dead or something. But, like, they're, like, main characters the entire Krakoan era, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I really
that's
like
amazing.
That. Yeah. So, I guess we'll kind of move on from there, and we'll talk about quickly about, I think, one that we don't like as much.
So there's X-Force.
Yeah.
I was gonna fake, I was gonna say New Mutants, but I don't want to get attacked.
No. We'll get to New Mutants in a minute.
So X-Force.
It's just always so gritty and dirty. It's just, we're dealing more with the creepy Russian doll situation soldiers, which... I can't believe we literally spent an entire issue because Beast is Cray and he froze one of the Russian doll soldiers that had infiltrated Krakoa, and he was like, oh, well, I had him on ice. Now I'm going to do a little bit of experiments with him. I'm going to slice him open. Well, the whole thing is when you kill one, another one comes out of it. It's the whole like thing where like they get smaller and smaller. So even though it was frozen, a new one comes out and then it goes inside him. So you'll literally spend like 1 to 2 issues of X-Force with Beast trying to get a miniature Russian psycho soldier out of him. And you have Black Tom Cassidy go like create a mini version of himself to go inside Beast as well to fight. Like, it's just...
I love Black Tom Cassidy because when he's involved with something, things are going to get real weird.
Yes. Which
And I love that.
I like his character in this. I mean, yeah, he's a little something, but
He's a little something indeed.
But I like seeing a little bit more like character with him because he was like always portrayed as like a villain and stuff because like that's what we've seen with a lot of these characters. But yes, he is a strange one, but that's the whole thing. So we get more of that. There's more behind the scenes with Peter, aka Colossus, and his brother Mikhail, I think is his name, and Russia, because Russia is all like anti-Krakoa.
Super anti-Krakoa.
Super anti.
Like aggressively anti-Krakoa.
Yes. And basically the Russian government has set up like kind of quote like two rulers. You have like Mikhail who rules like the mutant side of things, and then you have like an actual like human running things in Russia, even though like I mean Colossus' brother wants to rule everything and is creating all of his creepy soldiers. He wants to completely destroy everything.
Because it's probably important to note that the Russian mutants, like any mutant who's born in Russia, they are forbidden to go to Krakoa. They cannot go. It's you live in Russia or you're dead.
And you fight for the motherland. Yep.
And you fight for the motherland, and they could be they're essentially slaves to the Russian government if they are deemed like important enough, you know. And the Russian thing is kind of felt in several other books too, like it's kind of an underlying thing the whole time, which is interesting given like current stuff happening. But comics, like England is also kind of there too.
Yes,
they're also aggressively very anti.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, because of the Captain Britain stuff going on. But again, that's for later.
Yeah, but X-Force continues just to do more like behind the scenes stuff, but also like mystery people behind the scenes building up stuff against the mutants, because we see more with like
very
the man with the peacock tattoo.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, Xeno, and then we also see a weird part where there's a powerful baby mutant, I think it's one in the last issues of this, that gets... Okay, we have to talk about the security on Krakoa sucks. Like, I don't understand. You have a freaking place of mutants. Why don't you have better security? But you knowingly know that certain parts of the island don't have good security. So you literally have one point where Wolverine is surfing in like the death area of these like gnarly waves, and he becomes a surfer bro. I don't know why, but he does in this moment. And
that's
like
not important.
And Forge makes him a surfboard that's made out of adamantium so he can like survive these gnarly waves, and he meets these other surfers who just live for the thrill, which honestly I don't remember if this kind of also bleeds into Wolverine, but at the same time it's this whole thing where which we'll talk about soon, about where these baby mutants are and stuff, but there's this one particularly powerful mutant that's being cared for and gets stolen by these surfers who end up not actually being mutants, but they're like there on the island, and they're able to sneak through this one beach because the waves are so harsh and stuff that like they can't have security there, whatever. And that baby,
which is weird because like that's like literally what Black Tom Cassidy's for.
Yeah, but it's like, something that's his stuff can't reach there, or like the waves are too... there was some stupid reason why.
There always is, isn't there? Like we need to tell this story. We got to figure this out.
Yeah. So this is like
a
dead...
right there.
Yeah. One of the many dead zones, which those will pop up later too as well, of being like tumors on the islands that are causing like difficulty of monitoring things. But this powerful baby mutant gets taken by these surfers and gets sent to the man with the peacock tattoo, I believe, and like all the groups. So they're gonna do something with this baby, and that's just a very unfortunate.
Poor baby.
Yeah, just like X-Force. All of what's happening next, I don't want to know.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah, I know, it's just like nasty. It's just always nasty and depressing.
That's the thing, like from like the first issue of X-Force, it's obviously like the dark gritty one, but there's also so many scenes and parts of X-Force where I'm just like, oh my god, that is gross. Like, don't make me look at that. Ew. Yeah. Or like the concept that's happening is just like,
yes,
like the whole oh my god, the whole thing with like Domino and her poor skin.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that whole part.
I just want to vomit thinking about that. Like, ew.
Well, that's not the last time we're talking about mutants. Well, we'll get to that later.
No.
But yeah, that's all I had to say about X-Force. You just know
it's a slow burn. It's a very continuous story, and things happen and we move on. Yeah.
Well, now we'll move on
but
to
now,
yeah.
yeah, now you get to talk about New Mutants. Catch us up on New Mutants.
Yeah, so New Mutants has totally been worth the read throughout all this with the Krakoan era. It was one of those that I think I talked about before where I was a little iffy on it, but it was really good just to see, like, the New Mutants being, like, you know, they're a lot older now and stuff, but also seeing New Mutants with these younger kids, trying to train them, trying to help focus their energies more because everybody's just living in Krakoa, just, you know, it's kind of free-for-all, and it's like, well, some of these kids, like, don't know how to use their powers. You have lots of kids with insecurities, and so, like, all these insecurities have been building up. So New Mutants really starts right off the bat with how the Hellfire Gala ended, because one of the many deaths at the Hellfire Gala was poor little Scout.
Mm-hmm.
And with her death, well, her friends find her dead. And it's kind of this weird situation for them because they're like, oh my gosh, like, she's dead. Like, she's our friend. We need to help her. But we feel so bad because we've been, like, pushing her off because all of her friends have been hanging out with the Shadow King. Because the Shadow King has been, like, teaching the mutants, which, you know, anything with the Shadow King is kind of like, oh boy, like, he's, you know, has his own agenda and everything, and, like, he's been teaching all these younger kids, like, how to... This book is really weird and really interesting about, like, having all these mutants, like, kind of combine their powers and to do these different, like, specialty things.
Oh, like mutant circuits.
Yes.
Mutant technology at its finest.
Yes.
As they start to call it in the Krakoan era, which I thought was, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's really cool to see. But the whole thing is they're like, well, crap, like, we need to bring our friend back to life. But the problem is they're really worried because there has been some information going around on Krakoa about the confusion on, quote, clones being able to be brought back to life, and what does it mean for clones, because Scout is a clone because she is actually a clone of Laura. So they're like, well, crap, we can't bring this, like, we can't let anybody know that, like, Scout died. We need to, like, sneak in and, like
quietly revive her.
Yes, quiet revive her on her own because, like, we need to help our friend. And, like, well, the five, they're there, they find out, and they're kind of like,
yeah.
Oh, like, because they, like, bring her body there. They're like, well, we don't know how to make a new body. We're just gonna, like, use her body she has and hope there's a backup of her memory. Like, it's this whole thing, and it's, like, a mess. But the five are there, and they're just like, you guys don't have to worry about this. Like, you're worried about, like, that because she's a clone or something? Like, no. This is no problem. Like, we're gonna help you guys. And, like...
That's the great thing about the five, is that... while they are really, like, kind of hidden behind the council,
yeah,
you know, for very good reason, right? Because if humanity found out that is how that is happening, or that it is happening, and that's how it's happening, they would know no peace, right?
Yeah.
Assassination attempts constantly to stop that whole process, and so they don't get let out of the box very often, right?
No.
But in the instance where people go straight to them, thinking, like, I know you probably can't help me because, like the council hasn't told you to. And they're always like, what do you want? Let's go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, let's have some fun.
And I love really seeing more of them, too, because, like, they have some really interesting personalities, and, like... because it, like, especially because I've talked about before about, like, I read X-Men comics, like, a bit ago and stuff, and so, like, I have a gap still, but I'm trying to catch up.
Well, and a lot of these mutants that make the five are mutants who, like, have been such background characters for, like, so much of their, like, history. Except for Hope.
For Hope,
but,
yeah.
Except for Hope.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, like my man Goldballs, okay?
Yeah.
I don't care if he's called Egg now. Get that crap out of here. His name is Goldballs, all right? When they made Goldballs, because before Krakoa, Goldballs was actually part of the Miles Spider-Man comic. He was friends with Miles.
Okay.
And then Jonathan Hickman came and said, nope, Goldballs is mine. And so he disappeared out of Miles' comics, and I was like, aw. And then like, oh wait, no, he's doing important things. It's fine. But there's so many characters in the five that are just like, they have such new life breathed into them by being so flippant important to the overall story.
Yeah.
Now, it's such a shame because we have never ever gotten a comic that was about the five.
Okay, I was
whether it was a mini or anything.
Yeah. Do we get
They're
one
always
in the future?
in... Nope. They're always like... they're always all over the place. They're in like every comic at some point, you know, because of what their role is. Mm-hmm. But as people, unless they're Hope, as people, they're never
Hey.
focused on. I know.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, like, yeah, I was like, surely there has to be something like that comes in the, like, well, in the quote future of current, you know, because we're still in the past recapping on this, but that sucks because I feel like they have so much to say and they would be such an interesting comic. Like, we get some comics on some, like, I already complained about the X-Force, literally about the little Russian doll thing, literally in Beast for a whole entire issue. Like, come on, like, miniseries for sure or something, because I love to see too, because, like, you know, they are kind of younger-ish mutants and stuff, and they don't want to play by everybody's rules because, like, they can think for themselves. So we see, like, these slight moments of rebellion against, like, the, you know, the Quiet Council or whatever, or yeah, just wanting to genuinely help people. Heck yes, I love that. Yeah, for sure. But also, so with this whole thing basically being like, they'll bring Scout back because it's not a problem. And in the books, like the in-between, because a lot of these various issues we get like little in-between notes to certain people or like hidden facts or something, and like one of them is actually, I think, Hope writes to the Quiet Council. I think it's Hope. I can't remember specifically who it is. And it's kind of like, guys, we need to revise our rules for this because people are confused what a clone means. And these people are their own people. Like, these so-called clones are still human, like, or, you know, they're individual mutants and they deserve to have the right to come back. Like, I know that you probably didn't mean they were excluded, but like, we need to like change our rules of being like quote clones, as in we can't have more than one body of the same person out and about. Like, that's why the whole X Factor was involved in the whole thing. And so I love that little bit because it's always fun reading all these messages that get sent to the Quiet Council. We see a lot of those.
I love that. Any data page that pops up, I'm always like, all right, let's see what's going on here.
Yeah. And I think there's so many funny ones from New Mutants, because I've mentioned some, I think, in our prior X-Men episodes of some snarky things that, like, Magic has said to the Quiet Council and everything. It's just great. But
Magic.
No. So they bring Scout back, and, like, they're trying to, like, figure out the situation because, you know, like, her memory is not going to be completely from the correct moment. But it has to do with, like, she was wanting to warn her friends about Shadow King, and, like, when you find out this whole thing about how she actually died, because when you're dealing with the New Mutants, there's lots of, I mean, okay, everybody has baggage in all these comics, let's be real. X-Men equals baggage and trauma. So one of the main New Mutants that is, like, older New Mutants is Wolfsbane, who's been dealing with a lot because she had a child and she thought her child died, so she wanted her child to come back to life, Teddy, but she found out that he's still alive, and so they can't bring him back because they have to find out where he is. And so, like, with that all new information, she's just, like, lost her way. And so she had also been spending time with the Shadow King and his manipulation and stuff on her. I think she, like, lost control and, like, basically ended up, like, they, like, murdered Scout. And that's the whole thing that comes up with that. But it turns into a whole thing. So Scout ends up talking to her friends and is like, I told you to stay with me, Shadow King. Like, they just end up, like, becoming better friends again and because teams, like, misunderstandings and stuff. And so, like, they're all friends again. Scout missed her friends. It's like just all these little kids just trying to live, get by, and deal with their issues, and also becoming friends at the end, but also being like, okay, well, we need to take down the Shadow King and put him in his place. But at the same time, like, the New Mutants, the older ones, are also like, because
are they the ones up in space, or did they come back?
No, most of them are on Krakoa. There's only I think it's Cannonball and Sunspot. Yeah, those two are the ones that are still in space. But, like,
okay,
so you have Wolfsbane, you have Magic, Karma, Moonstone, and Warpath.
Okay.
So there's still a pretty full team. But then, luckily, Scout convinces her friends and stuff, and they tell them what's going on. So they confront, like, the New Mutants confront the Shadow King, but at the same time, they get trapped in a whole drama with the Shadow King, and then, like, all the little kids decide to help out as well. But what you find out is that the Shadow King is more of an entity than, like, a human or, like, a mutant. And, like, the Shadow King has been living in this guy, like, Farouk, for, like, ever since he's been a child. So this, like, guy's had his, like, childlike self trapped in his body, as, like, the Shadow King has been the one who's been, like, manipulating him the whole time. So you're dealing with, like, everybody in, like, kind of I think it's the astral plane, like, Shadow King / Farouk's mind. And then they realize you can't destroy, like, we need to destroy Shadow King, not the actual person here, who's a mutant that needs help. So you have everybody, like, helping everybody through all their trauma and, like, getting the evil Shadow King entity out. And so It's kind
And
of crazy.
that pops back up later, right? Am I crazy? I think that's continued somewhere else.
I'm sure it is, because you can never truly get rid of the Shadow King. Let's be real.
Correct. Yeah.
But like that's how it ends, is that Farouk becomes free of the Shadow King and he's able to live a happier life, and you have all these mutants coming together because you also get to see all their crazy combinations of using their powers to help them all escape this trap they're in. And just, it's kind of one where it does have a feel-good ending because everybody ends up in a better place. You see mutants being happier with who they are and knowing that they have friends that support them. So there we go.
Yeah, New Mutants, it's such a warm read.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So it's definitely worth it. I'm glad I've stuck with it, and I'm very excited to see where they all go. Okay. I think that's all I have to say about the New Mutants.
Okay.
Let's see. Are we moving on to the Marauders?
Yeah. Now, the Marauders have been in so many different places throughout, like, their issues. Will you remind me, like, where the Marauders are in this section of Reign of X?
Yes, I will try my best. It kind of like it takes like a little bit of a weird turn. What we see is like, okay, post Hellfire Gala, and like they don't really focus too much on the Hellfire Gala or like what happened.
Not really. They kind of move past it, yeah. Yeah,
but they also do this like major callback to like the past, specifically with Shaw. So we see with Shaw, like they've alluded to this event. I think it was in prior issues about how like the Hellfire Club originally was taken over by mutants, and it was all during this attack where like the humans, as part of the Hellfire, like basically got a sentinel and wanted to kill off the mutants there. But what they didn't realize, well, you know, joke's on them, is that they destroyed the sentinel, and then Shaw and Emma took over Hellfire. But one of those parts that was called back was that Shaw like lost his like girlfriend or whatever in that fight. And so he thought that she was like dead forever and stuff, and was like so heartbroken about it. Well, plot twist, she never died, and Shaw's point of view is very different from her point of view. And Emma's point of view is that, well, not that Shaw's ever portrayed as like a good guy or, you know, like a, you know, he's clearly the best person to ever be with, but we see a lot of like, which we also see that with some of the other issues, like some of the other things that happen in the Marauders. There's kind of these couple stories that have to deal with basically like characters confronting abuse and dealing with abusive people. Oh, yeah. And so we see that with Shaw, and let's see, what is her name? I think her name's Chantel. I think that's her last name, is this woman. Yes. And she wanted to run away originally in the past during this whole thing. And Emma's like, I guess I can maybe help you, maybe. And then it got to the point where like the whole like Sentinel attack and everything, and Emma's like, okay, well, we're doing it now. You don't have a say in this. I'm pretending that you're dying right now. Out of here. Yeah, you're going. I don't want to see you again. Like, start a new life. But she needed help with that, which like it's this whole little weird side story where it talks about they have to go to the one person who's somehow going to help her out. We're going to go to Kingpin. And so then Emma talked about like, she sent like, not to be like Kingpin's like love or something like that, just to help like get a new identity and have her go off into the world. But then that means Emma owed a debt to the Kingpin, and it kind of skips over everything she did. But you know, it's probably stuff in the past and probably prior stuff as mentioned. So she's like, yeah, that was a terrible part of my life. We're just moving on from that. But well, it's the Krakoan age now, so guess who comes out of hiding? We see her come to Krakoa, and we also see like her and Emma bonding, and Emma just kind of reevaluating things, which was good to see. It was so good to see her like be sisterly towards somebody. Yeah, like vulnerable and stuff. And then like what we also, it's just really interesting because I guess the other like abusive situation we see is that there has been this other group. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking out now? The like little club that's been trying to like, of the little like kids basically. I think they're all young adults. They're the new Hellfire like something, right? Hellfire something. Yeah, like basically with all their crypto or whatever. I don't know what they have. They have all this new fake money, so they can buy whatever they want. And so they're like, oh, the Hellfire Company, the mutants have
Like,
Yeah.
they're so rich and famous. Well, we'll just outdo
Oh,
them.
we're
They're
so
such
cool
little
and
brats.
we hate you.
Oh.
Yeah, but one of them,
They're like
you
10. Get over it.
yeah. Well, one of them, you see the cuckoos like kind of messing with her mind and stuff, but it was more of just like,
Oh, that girl. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about this.
yeah, and like,
Yeah.
this girl that's part of this group, like, kind of just like comes to a realization about her situation, kind of like becomes a little unhinged, but also realizes like her father was really abusive to her and stuff, so she goes to like confront her father / kill him, and she leaves the group and she's like, I'm done with all you fools, like I'm on my own.
Like, doesn't that only happen though because like the cuckoos are kind of like, what the hell is up with these little brats? Like, let's take a peeky, and they're like looking through all the kids, and they're like, well, you're evil, wow, you're messed up, what is happening with you? But then they get to her and they accidentally like bring up all of these terrible traumatic things that happened to her. Like, they like unrepress her abuse, her just terrible childhood, and that just send her like, just
it
sets her off,
spiraling off, and just like,
and they're kind of like, oh, oops, my bad, and
but
like,
then they kind of like stick with her to the end and help her confront her like father and stuff. It's this like really weird, kind of sweet, confusing moment with that. But
like they opened the wrong door.
Yeah. But hey, they have one less member of that now, and she's on her way to life. So yeah, that's the other like little confronting abuse situation. But we also see lots of change-ups with the team and with the seats, kind of, because you think that Chantel is gonna take like Shaw's spot, because they go to confront Shaw and he's like, wait, you're alive, my babe, basically, and she's like, no, like, no, get away from me. We're not gonna,
like, I was legally dead, we are divorced, goodbye.
Yeah. Also, like, I know what you did to me, you can't pretend, like, you need to open yourself up to the fact that you were terrible and abusive, and I'm not running back to that. I'm my own woman, and I know that I can be fine on my own and have a healthy life. And so, like, you think that he's going to step down. Well, surprise, Emma steps down and Chantel takes her place in the company, not Charlie.
In the company, yeah.
Like,
so Emma can focus on the council stuff. And Chantel is running the mutant business.
Yeah. Because that's when you realize Emma's kind of like, well, I'm handling a little too much, and like, I'm not doing as well as I could do at this, and I would rather give that up so I can focus on our people, because she is the only one that, she's one that really cares and actually recognizes things outside the Quiet Council and has her own agendas too as well, because how could she not? She is the queen. She knows what's up.
The queen.
One other thing about the Marauders is that, so we also see a switch up with the Marauders themselves. Like, we still have Kate and Bishop. They're still part of the team, but Pyro, Iceman, and Christian all leave because Iceman, he's ready to test his powers. He's all pumped up after creating, terraforming Mars. And
he's ready to go.
Yeah. And
he has a Encanto moment. Like, is Isabella?
Yes.
He has a moment like her, and he's all like, what else can I do?
Yes,
let's do it.
Exactly. 100%.
Like, literally exactly what happens. He's like, that was cool. Let's go try to, like...
Yeah, he goes to fight the frost giants at one point to be like, yes, I'm using my powers.
Like, people, this is like the frost giants from Thor. Like,
yes. And the frost giants are like... Bro, like, what did we do to you? Like, we'll fight, but
they're just like living their life, and he just comes in raging, and he's like, I'll kill you all, and they're all like, why?
Yeah, and he's like, I just want to test my powers. But then, like, him and Christian, because they're like a thing, and well, they end up just like kind of taking like a little vacay as well too, and so they're leaving the team. Also, because one of the talking about like those in between little like data files and stuff, Pyro's been writing like novels, I think romance novels or something, so he's ready to go out on his like book tour and ready to make his fame with writing. So like he leaves. So then we have quite the group that's set up to join. So like we said, like Kate and Bishop are still there. We have Psylocke come up again in this. This is not the last time she comes up, because she'll play a part in she gets another little kind of promotion or change up team. We have Tempo, Aurora, Somnus, because we have these like mutants that I don't know much about, and then we have Dakin.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was such a good team though. Like,
it's gonna be fun, and then it also ends with Kate getting a treasure map that she created for herself, and that's how it ends. They're on a mission. I mean,
Oh,
you
like
can't
from
be
the
real
like the
pirates.
past, like the extreme past or the extreme future or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, I have this treasure map. We have to follow it. And they're all like, okay.
Okay, yeah.
All
So,
right.
yep. I mean, that's the Marauders. That's kind of how that ends.
It's a really good team. Like Tempo, I love Tempo. She's so cool. And then Somnus. You said you don't know much about Somnus because he is a freshly created mutant.
That would make sense.
He was in. They created him for, I think it was the first issue of like they've been doing these Marvel Voices issues for like the past 4 or 5 years. And I think it was the first Pride issue, Marvel Pride, where they created Somnus because he's gay. They introduced him as a gay mutant who has these amazing powers of sleep. And so this is his first, I think it's his first official team he's on.
It's cool bringing those like new mutants in a sense, or those that we don't get much about, because that's also, you could say with like Aurora too. Like she's been kind of like, I mean, we did see her briefly.
She's been kind of like forgotten for a while.
Yeah, and she was in X Factor for a little bit, but you know, I'm looking forward to this eclectic group. That should be great.
It's a fun group.
Together.
The story is the story from this moment on is really all over the place. Like, oh my god, it's what? But the team is fun. Good team. Love the team.
Okay. Should we move on to our next one?
Yeah, we want to jump into Sword.
Yeah. I personally don't have much to say. Abigail Brand, bad, manipulator.
Yeah.
Done.
So you have like so Sword is just kind of like the continuation of, really it's kind of the continuation of like Cable and like Ten of Swords.
It's like the galactic stuff and like
it is. It's like this all the mutant
Mars
stuff that happens outside of Earth, which is a lot of stuff because now because Arakko exists, now mutantdom and Earth, you know, humanity to a degree, is now playing on a galactic scale. They are members of space, of all the whole universe, instead of just the planet.
Because Storm is like the current like ambassador or whatever for.
Yes, she's large and in charge, as they say.
Yeah, but Abigail Brand has her sights on that and more, and just that woman.
Another person you just love to hate because everything she's got cooking is just...
She's just so cool.
It's not like for her own sake, because she's not selfish. She's not like, I'm doing this for me and me only. She wants not mutantdom at all. She wants Earth to be more like active in the galactic scale of things, and she wants to protect Earth from like all of those outside galactic like threats. She's just not a very good person. Like, she's not doing this with like pride and humanity and goodness in her heart. She is not at all. She's all backstab.
Kind of, she's like, kind of selfish.
Backstab
you might not realize it, but it's
not not in like a straightforward way.
Yeah.
She's not an altruist at all.
But no, she loves to play the game, playing with both sides situation, messing with things, so.
Well, like, doesn't Sword begin like with a really crazy like showing off of how mutant circuits can work?
Yes, that's how the whole system is set up.
Because she runs the Sword space station, and then she has like her own little X-Men team that helps her run said Sword station. But with their powers combined, as you will, they manage to like bust a hole into the White Hot Room.
Yes.
Which is, if you're like, what's that? The White Hot Room is a place outside of space and time, basically like where the Phoenix lives.
Yeah, I was like, it's the home.
When it's not harassing Jean, you know? It's its own little realm where it, like, and if it dies, it goes back to the White Hot Room. When Jean dies, she goes to the White Hot Room, like her consciousness does. It's a very crazy place, kind of like at the center of the multiverse in a way. And they bust a hole into the White Hot Room and they, steal mine? Question mark.
And they pretend it's their own.
Yes, they bring back essentially a metal, which they call Mysterium.
So
why not?
Stupid. Yep.
Which
so original.
Yeah, right. Spooky. Which they use as like their galactic currency. Like, hey, galaxy, if we give you this brand new metal with all of its amazing properties, you will recognize us as a player on this galactic scale. Like, All hail mutants. And the rest of the galaxy is like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Because the Mysterium it's one of those comic book metals. It's so light, but
so
also
much,
like the most durable thing,
strong,
even more than like adamantium. It blocks out magic.
Vibranium, yeah.
It does all of these things because why wouldn't it? But immediately turns mutants into like pretty much like the richest people
big
in the
players,
universe.
Yeah.
And Abigail Brand uses that to her absolute advantage.
Yep.
But I do love her team, though. Her team is really cool. I like the people there. Not her, but I like the people.
They're pretty interesting, yeah. But I don't know. That was I didn't enjoy that one as much as I enjoyed others. Not that I would say that was my
You'll
least
enjoy
favorite
where
one.
it's headed. It goes into X-Men Red.
Okay.
In the next one, in X-Men Red, it's like the Storm book.
Oh, Storm.
Yeah,
oh,
it kind of turns into like Storm versus Abigail in a way. Like there's so much happening in that one book alone, but that's kind of one of the things where like Abigail's like, well, you have to work with me. But like they're both got like a gun behind their back kind of situation where Storm's like, I'll be nice to you, but do not double cross me. And Abigail's like, oh, I will double cross you and you will continue to be nice to me. It's like,
and Storm's like,
Storm's
I know
just
your
waiting.
games. Yeah.
Absolutely. Although she has so many things to worry about in that book because there's so much that happens on like the galactic scale.
Well, during this whole part, she has so much to worry about because like she's getting threatened, questioned, challenged like literally every single minute because everybody's like, what do you mean you live here on Araco with us? And what do you mean like you have your council seat and stuff?
For sure.
And, like,
so Araco, like Krakoa has the Quiet Council, Araco has a very similar thing going on. And because Storm was made, I mean, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Because she was made like the soul system representative. She's basically like also in charge of Araco. So
she has a spot on the council.
She has a spot on their council, and because they're very like a warlike people, they're like nobody gets anything here without earning it. They're and like, she's basically just like, who do I gotta kill? Let's do it right here.
Yeah, because they're all like, and who are you? And she's like, well, why don't I just show you?
Why don't I just? And that's what we love about Storm. She's not one for words.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, and she's also one of those really cool mutants who has, like, experience and can get by without her powers as well. Like, she is a formidable force without her powers and can still kick butt because there are those also that challenge her that, like, their ability is to, like, take away her abilities.
Well, and like, isn't this where Tarn, the Uncaring, comes back in?
Yes. And he is his very
disgusting,
much like,
awful
no.
powers.
Yeah, and he's just
he hates her. He loathes her.
But she kind of gets to go, well, I took care of that. Where are you? And he's kind of like, I guess I'll kind of respect you for the moment type thing.
I'll be back later. And she's just like, it'll end the same. So just tell me when.
Yeah. Well, because with the whole thing is like, she felt like she was walking away and because she didn't have her powers and he took them away and stuff. Because there's all this whole thing like, nobody's ever sat on this council and everything that never had powers and stuff. And she's like, you took my mutant abilities away, my powers, like, whatever. I can still be who I am without them. Just try me again. And he's like, respect.
Yeah, she almost kills him too.
Yeah.
And he's all like, well, damn, all right.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I guess like, you deserve your spot.
You're no
now.
Sinister, but
and that's okay. We're all much better okay. That. Yeah, but yeah, no. So that's where Storm's at.
Yeah, so Sword gives like there's so many stories being told inside of the Sword book, and they'll continue on later.
Yep.
So now we get to talk about mutant babies again.
Yes, we do. Yes, we need to come back, which also deals with. So we have our dude, the guy we love. I feel like always. I don't know. I'm just kind of like he's Nightcrawler.
You can't hate him.
No.
Nightcrawler gets his own little book called The Way of X. And if you don't know much about Nightcrawler, he's not very complicated. He's a teleporter. He's blue. He's got a tail. And he was raised Catholic in the most intense meaning of the word that you can think of. And through his adventures in mutantdom and stuff like that, he is not like, he's not staunchly supportive of Catholic. Like, he doesn't push away other people's faith to boast his own.
It's more of an internal struggle, kind of.
It is.
Like,
It's very much his own, like, inner battle with his soul and sinning. And what does that even mean? And that's why I love Kurt, because it's not like, hey, religion is my personality. It's all the things that come with that. And so Kurt's thing, while he's on the council, but living on Krakoa, he notices that there's something like wrong. There's something missing in Krakoa. And throughout this book of Way of X, he realizes it's religion. It's something to believe in, and not like a deity, not God, but it's hard to explain. Like, he notices how people are now living their new, like, solely mutant lives, and but like the damage that's causing to the people around them, to Krakoa itself, in very minute, small ways.
Yeah, because you have this whole idea is that, like, everybody is, like, on this island supposed to be happy and safe and kind of, like, also healthy, but and also kind of going full force with that number one rule about, like, make more mutants or also just make time for pleasure, whatnot, like, so and it's kind of like, well, this is like the basis that people have, so like you have this complicated feeling like everybody is just like able to just like let loose and try to like be happy in their freedom. But yeah, it's this whole idea of like there's something missing. There's something more. People have to have more of a purpose, a way, which some of this stuff does happen a little bit before the Hellfire Gala. So because we also see, we've talked about that in our prior episode with the X-Men stuff about like what he's kind of going through, and he has like a drunken confusion, like mess
he has a great night at the Hellfire Gala. He doesn't remember it, but
yeah. And then, because we've also talked about too, like, this is not just like Nightcrawler's book. We also see Legion being a part of this, which is just really fun to see because
that's probably my favorite part. Because like, while at first it's like, oh, this is the Nightcrawler book, it's like you get slapped with it. Actually, this is the Nightcrawler and Legion Best Friends Forever book.
Yes, which
and I
unlikely
love it.
pair. That's great. Yeah, and it's a book where like you root for both of them, and like Legion more so, especially because like,
well, I love how supportive he is of Kurt.
Yeah,
because like with Legion and his absolute near infinite wisdom, because of his power, all of these things, he's like, who needs religion? Like, we don't need that. But then while he's following Kurt around, while Kurt's trying to figure out the answer to life and its many questions, he realizes, he's like, oh, you're not looking for religion. You're looking for purpose. You're looking for that thing that leads us all to who we want to be and what we want to do. And then it clicks for Legion, and he's like fully on board. And then that focus also helps him sort out his own humongous mess of, himself.
Yeah, and that like in ways that he wants to try to help as well, because he feels like, there's so much that he can do as well.
Because that's not something he's ever known before.
Yeah, and so you see a lot of that with stuff going on with them, and then talking about briefly about like the babies. There's lots of babies, and there's like a whole like
the abandoned babies.
Yes, and like basically this like whole orphanage that's being taken care of and stuff, and that's where one of those babies was kidnapped that we see that I mentioned earlier. Right. That's where one of them comes from. So people like. The mutants are making more babies to, like, grow the population of Krakoa, but then they're abandoning the babies. Yeah. Like, they're continuing a party lifestyle, having a baby, and then disappearing. Like, I've had the baby, we're good to go. And so there's all these orphanages on Krakoa that are just literally full of babies. Like, newly born babies. And we're introduced to this other mutant during this storyline called Lost. And she has this very traumatic past and everything, and like she wasn't completely whole when she came to the island, and she went to a whole process of like becoming reborn again and like having her powers like more control, and she has like this unique ability to like affect gravity,
like gravity or something.
But she's found her place with caring for these orphans as well, and like her ability also like working out with the babies, I guess it makes them more calm or something. But we see her confront her past during this time too, because she was abused, and like because one of the other mutants that's in the storyline is Cortez, who's this dude who is
he's not hard to like understand because he's like a bad guy, but
he has his own issues and stuff, and because he hates himself. He hates being a mutant, and that's how he lashes out at other people.
Because it's never done him any good.
Yeah. Because he's been handed everything in life, and like, that's what you unravel and stuff, and he's just like, he needs to find his own purpose. Well, you have Nightcrawler as well, who's trying to find the purpose for everyone, and also you're weaving in this story with Cortez, like, finding his place and, like, trying to set things right, but also, like, you know, those villain tendencies and stuff, and so you have him, like, kind of trying to, like, apologize as well, and dealing with loss and everything with the situation, and just coming to terms with his purpose and potential future happiness type thing. So you see that whole thing, which loss plays into a part with another thing that's been going around during this part. We've also been seeing Onslaught, who's been in the background, been slowly manipulating things behind the scenes, which is also why Kurt was also kind of drunk, or very drunk, you know, at the Hellfire Gala, causing all this anger and destructive things going on and possessing mutants, and that leads...
like manipulating their negative emotions into the point of, like, lashing out and stuff. And if you don't know who Onslaught is, he's a very interesting villain because he's like the mental fusion of Magneto and Professor X. He's not those two, but he is like those two fused together in a way, like mentally.
In villain form,
In villain form. So it's very weird, but he's just been kind of like in the background of Krakoa since... well, forever, I guess, since the mutants came back to Krakoa.
Yeah, well, that's what you find. Well, you find out how he came to be where he was, and that's related to actually Lost because of her situation, which kind of goes into the kind of Onslaught issue. If we want to move on from Way of X in a sense, that goes to this whole coming down, is that Orcus was doing tests and stuff on Lost and put Onslaught like in
her brain.
Yes.
So that she carried him to Krakoa. It's really like... whoa.
Carried him to Krakoa because they knew that it might infect things, because when she died, they would bring her back to life, and that would put Onslaught within Krakoa, within the system. Yeah.
And, like a virus, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. So like it becomes a virus, which does happen, and that virus specifically enters, like, Professor X, and it turns into this whole thing that Onslaught wants to delete all the backups so that mutants can't come back. And so we see that actively happening, and which is also this whole interesting part, because during this whole, like, Way of X and stuff, like, where we've seen not only just, like, Legion interacting with Nightcrawler and, like, you know, both finding their purpose and, like, believing in each other, but we also have this because Legion is the son of Professor X, but Professor X is kind of like, you're a hazard to everybody, and I don't trust what you're doing. And Legion's like, but you won't even talk to me, dude. Like, Dad,
you can't just sit there and breathe without possibly, like, destroying the world. You are not to be trusted. I'm sorry, son. It just is what it is. And Legion's like, nah, dog. Like, legit. Like, I'm better now. Please don't try to have me killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. The relationship in the Krakoan era between Charles and Legion, it just makes me so angry at Charles constantly. Even more so.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because Legion shows time and time and time and time again throughout this story and, like, going past it, that, like, look how capable I am. Look at all the good things that I'm doing for Krakoa right now. Like, while we're sitting here talking, I'm also over here doing this, and I'm also working on this. And Charles is just like,
which is
like,
just
until when though? Until when?
And because I know you're gonna fail again. You're gonna mess up, and I'm just like, you are just such a jerk, Charles. Like, you are so contradictory. You believe in the hope of everybody else, but when it comes to, like, your own, like, quote, flesh and blood, you're just like, nope, I don't want anything to do with you. And I'm just like, dude, you just can't.
Nobody else should either.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, mister, you're not perfect, but you're believing you are, and you think that you should have, like, perfect children, quote, in your eyes, but you can't believe in people trying to change, trying to do good, when your whole thing was that you originally believed.
That's his whole thing. Like, it's your own son. Has Legion done some terrible things? Yeah. Sure. Is it his fault? No. Like,
but Charles, have you done terrible things? Yes.
Is it your fault?
Yes. Yes. Like, dude, like, you need to look at yourself. Like,
Well, like Legion, even at all times, remember, Legion has those two mutants. Those,
Yes.
I think they're brothers.
Zorn.
Always,
Yeah.
yeah, always with him at all times.
Yeah.
Like,
so if he messes up, they can just be like,
in an instant, they have like his breathing. Like, they know exactly his tells that if he slips into that like psycho state, they will destroy him atomly, like together.
Which it's like so sad, but he's also so self-aware, and he's just kind of like, Dad, like, I'm putting these precautions up. Like, I don't think you understand where things at. And like Charles like doesn't. But during this whole thing with Onslaught taking control and stuff, it's like, oh boy, guess what? Your son freaking saves everybody because
the entire nation,
yeah, because he knew what was right, and he's trying his best, and you need to listen to your son. Like. Which they do get like a little moment, I guess, technically, where he's kind of.
It doesn't last. Spoiler alert, it doesn't last.
No. And that's what I said. It's kind of a moment.
Because it can't.
No, it can't, but also, it's just one of those moments because, you know, like, it's supposed to happen. You know, also, like, Charles is probably, like, dying inside, being like, good job, son. Yeah, and walks away.
Is it at the end of Onslaught that, like, Legion creates his little place?
Yes. That's...
It's really cool, like... What I can't remember. What does he call it? It's something like cutesy and silly. Like, what is it?
Well, I think is that technically what Nightcrawler calls it, or that's what they kind of call their religion. I don't remember what
they end up calling the religion like the Spark.
Yes, and then people become legionaries.
That's like the group of the people. Yes. They're like the Jesus police. That's what they are.
Yeah.
For mutantdom, helping people find their purpose and make sure people are staying on the right track with that. Yeah. But Legion creates like
it's like a sanctuary.
Like a new place, like a plane of existence, where like connected to his own. He puts a physical gate in Krakoa where people can go through and transfer themselves into the astral plane, which is connected to Legion's own like personal dimension of existence. Because if you don't know enough about Legion, please go look him up. He's fascinating. Absolutely ridiculous. But within this realm, mutants can like essentially leave behind their bodies, because there's so many mutants who, like, because of their powers that are active at all times, like, they can't touch each other, they can't be honest and protect and like not hurt each other. So this is a place where mutants can basically meet up and like be their true selves together.
It's like a playground in a sense of just like of all the ways of imagination, and just like a place of freedom in that way too.
Yes. It's like, it's meant to be that place where people can like truly like unwind and be themselves, work on that mental health. It's the ultimate place for those people who really, really need that. And that's huge for Legion. That's one of his big things is like mental health. For obvious reasons. If you don't know anything about Legion, again, please go look him up.
Yeah. But no, it was just, and that was just, it was so interesting what was formed out, like that formation of that, but it was also like, duh, yeah, they need a place like that. They need that type of sanctuary, and that was just a really neat moment for him and just for all of Krakoa and that. And then, like we said, yes, we get the spark, the religion, quote unquote. Which I think, because some of the quotes is that it's an idea, the spark is the idea of mutant happiness, of that we rule us, was the quote in that. Yes. And they're the legionaries, we keep the peace, we keep the law, we keep the spark. It's kind of cute.
Keep the spark.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's great. I think it's just like, finally they both find their purpose and the way to, you know, help people live. But I cannot get over Nightcrawler's beard or whatever at the end of that. I was like, whoa there.
He's always a pirate at heart. He can't help himself.
Oh. Yep.
I like their jackets too. They're big long jackets.
Oh my gosh.
Silly boy.
Yeah.
But that book will continue. Also, it's very fun. I like that book because it's very out there. Like, from the get-go, they're not just telling like a like place-to-place story. It's all out there. It's all like psychology and major thinking points while they're kind of out doing their thing. And then at the end, you're like, oh my god, it all mattered. Like, There was a point to all of the psychobabble. I get it.
Yeah. Yep. Whew. It's a lot of comics we've covered so far. I think this might be a good halfway point for us to end this part 1 of this part 2 episode.
Mm-hmm.
So listeners, you won't have to wait too long for the second part of this part 2. We will be releasing this next week, and then the following week after that will be a new episode.
Indeed. Listeners, we really hope that you are still enjoying our run of X-Men comics. If you haven't listened to our 100th episode, head back, listen to that. You can find us all over the interwebs on Facebook and X and Blue Sky and Instagram. So go follow us. We will catch you soon. See ya.